Guys, welcome to Business Regulation Subcommittee. We're live, so just remember everything you say is being memorialized for here at any turn. Lori, you want to go ahead and get us started?
Sure. Is it okay with everybody if I share a screen? We can just kind of walk through things that way.
Please do.
Okay.
The printout of the printer. Like how much is in each one?
Okay. Can everyone see that? Yes. Okay. So this is our agenda for today. Mr. Chair, do you want to go through the bills in order?
That's fine.
Okay. So the first bill is the, The first bill is House Bill 261. That's Delegate Branch's bill about battery charge fence security systems. You want to walk through a summary of the bill?
Please.
Okay, so this is the bill that generally defines a battery charge fence security system. It frames it as a security system rather than a structure and establishes a basic framework for local governments to regulate the systems. So the bill defines, we can walk through the bill if you'd like. So the bill defines what is a battery charge fence security system. It's a technical definition about basically what the fence looks like and how it needs to function. It's a 12-volt battery. It's not hooked up to the grid at all. It's just a battery operated system. And then the bill here is talking about what a local government may do in terms of regulation. And then the bill goes into what a local government may not do. So this is sort of, as I understand it, a partial preemption. So the local government may require compliance with alarm or security system ordinances, regulations, or registration requirements or permit requirements, but may not require compliance with other requirements like structural permitting requirements. So, the local government entities could do what's provided for in the bill. And if the company does not comply with the requirements that a local government sets, the bill establishes penalties. So the local government would be authorized to issue a citation and impose a fine not exceeding $500 if the system was not ultimately made compliant. But aside from that, the local government wouldn't be able to impose any additional penalties beyond that. And then here the bill talks about what else the local governments would be preempted from doing, like imposing additional installation or operational requirements, prohibiting the use of the fence. I guess there are some jurisdictions that outright do not allow these to be installed. So that is essentially what the bill does.
I guess my only issue is, I know they're having problems. It's taking quite a while to get getting these things installed, due to permitting issues. But you're saying some jurisdictions just don't allow these?
That's my understanding.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, CT, I think what Laura's saying is absolutely right. And part of the problem is that there's no local definition for what this is. So often the testimony was saying this year and last that they try to get an approval and the local jurisdiction would be like, well, we have nothing in our code that even describes it. So part of what your bill does here is it helps define, number one, what it is. So at least these jurisdictions have a statute of definition, and therefore the additional part of the bill, which gets into this local MACO MML criticism is, okay, fine, you're going to define it, but we might still want to not allow it. And that's where the policy rub is, whether or not you're taking away from a jurisdiction there.
Right. And usually we try to stop that. But the problem is, I mean, geez, I just don't know what the pushback is. I know people don't want to be told what to do. They don't like to be told what to do, but I just don't see what the big pushback is as far as this kind of fencing.
Well, I support the bill.
I
Yes.
agree with you.
Yeah.
Well,
I agree.
unfortunately,
I mean,
Right.
it's 2 feet behind an already installed structure.
right, it's for
Behind an already
security,
installed structure.
right. Anybody else want to chime in on your feelings on this?
Just one clarification. So Laura, I want to just make sure I understand. So for jurisdictions that do not allow this fence, is this giving them the requirements or giving them some standards so they could now figure out how to,
Right.
how to permit it? Or is this, or this bill just says if you still don't do it, this won't make you do it?
This makes everybody do it, right?
Yeah, so right here in the bill, it says that the local government may not prohibit the use of a battery charged fence security system that is intended to be used for security. So I think this is pushing a local government. You have to allow these to come in. And in doing so, the bill sets up parameters for this has to be regulated like an alarm system or a security system, period.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's
and
giving them the guidance on how to
Yeah.
permit it.
Exactly. It's for those that don't feel comfortable telling the smaller jurisdictions what to do, it's providing guidance and also saying that they can't preclude it. What are the feelings? Delegate Chi, you have any feelings on this?
Well, I'm trying to understand the local pushback from MML and MACO. I think their argument is the bill restricts local permitting authority, but it does provide some guidance, right?
Right. And the only thing I never heard why this is like why these fences shouldn't be made or why they shouldn't be legal. I've not heard a single person say these are a bad idea, these are a danger. That's not really what I heard, so now we get into bureaucracy, and that's what I think the bill's trying to cut out in some state uniformity for these companies that do
Right.
this. This is a very niche bill, but I haven't heard anything in opposition as to why we shouldn't have these.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
now
agree.
it's a matter of getting our, the jurisdictions in line as far as making this a thing in all the jurisdictions. Are there any other questions on this? No.
And it's not in no residential area.
Right.
Correct. So this
Okay.
It can be mixed use, but it can't be just residential.
correct.
Do we
Mr. Chair.
remember if, I'm sorry. go.
I was just going to move favorable on the bill, Lily. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Lily, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, do we recall any mention of other states' practices in that regard?
No.
I don't believe there's any testimony about other states.
Yeah, this
Just
is
that
really on
some
us.
jurisdictions in the state have regulations in place and others do not.
Yeah, so this is really our call. I'm just gonna go ahead and call, see if we call balls and strikes on this. Because it's not confusing at all. It's just whether we want to do it or not.
Mr. Chair, I move favorable on the bill.
Do
Second.
we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of the bill? Give me a
Aye.
thumbs up.
Could you
Okay.
raise your hand so I can take count?
All right, that's,
Six. So that's six.
yeah.
6-0.
Yeah,
And Delegate
Mark-
Fisher is excused.
yes, correct.
Okay.
All right, so if we can go on to the next bill.
Yes. Delegate Fisher is coming in now.
He'll be all right.
Go with computer audio. I see.
We can hear you, Mark, so.
I just muted it.
Yes, well, the whole world can hear you too. So just to let you know, as I've let all the other committee members know, this is being memorialized for
Yeah.
eternity. So,
Yeah.
all right.
So the next
go ahead.
two bills are the home improvement deposit bills, House Bill 395, which is Delegate Adams' bill, and House Bill 408, which is Chair Davis's bill. So current law says that a home improvement contractor may not collect a deposit of more than 1/3 of the contract price before or at the time the contract is signed. But the law is silent about how the payment would need to go beyond Oh, do you want to go ahead?
Mr. Chairman, you've got my bill and the chairman's bill. If you want to work on the chairman's bill, why don't we park my bill for the time being and work on the one?
Okay.
That's my message.
And Chris, as we're going forward, I guess we just briefly discuss the chairman's bill. I know the chairman's issue was also my issue with this. Basically, that these home improvement, the larger ones, the ones that wanted the exception, were also the ones that were demanding pretty much the full amount right up front.
Right.
3 home improvement projects done through Lowe's or Home Depot, and they've got all their money up front. And Derek got the same thing this summer when he tried to install carpet. Thought that wasn't how it was supposed to be, but what they do is they ask you for, I guess, the first third, and then immediately within seconds say, okay, now we need the other 2/3. And so basically require you to pay 100% prior to a single thing being done in your house. And so trying to find that middle ground, because we did not know that was the law, but that indeed was the law. So I guess Derek's bill, we discussed it over the summer, was trying to get it to where, okay, let's move it up to half, but they can't ask for the rest until the project is completed. Now, Chris, I was going to ask, what is your feeling on that part of it?
So my business practice, and in subcommittee, I'll just try to personalize it, but normally that's called COD, or cash on delivery. So you pay a deposit down, the balance due when the job's delivered. Now, the definition of a job delivered is a job, completed. So reputable contractors will go do the work, perhaps walk through the job with the customer, and then collect the COD at that point in time, or make arrangements. So I support that. And the other part that I support about that principle is allowing the higher down payment, which has only ever been my main criticism, is that in the world we live in, third doesn't cover the cost of goods, let alone the ability to get started on the job. So on that part, I can speak for myself and others in home improvement industry and say that is an agreeable way to go about it. I'm not sure who in the world goes in front of a customer and says, here, give me $3,333, and then seconds later says, give me the balance COD. But that's just not good business practice.
That's what Lowe's, I've literally had.
It doesn't feel right.
I've had that happen several times, and it didn't dawn on me until Derek called me. And they're, like you said, the smaller ones probably don't do this. So hopefully this will be a benefit to the smaller businesses by allowing them to ask more up front, but also precluding until we're done, precluding them from getting the entire amount, because we're trying to protect the customer. We want the customer to have some say. We also know what a mechanic's lien is, because of course we run the risk, and Chris, you understand this, of not getting all your money, but that's what the mechanic's liens are for. That's unfortunately part of the cost of doing business. Laura, is there anything we're missing as far as substantively?
I just wanted to add that there's an amendment in the packet that the chair wanted to have offered for discussion purposes for his bill, House Bill 408. Are we on House Bill 408 now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so we can just look at the reprint. So there was some testimony from the MBIA, the Building Industry Association, that they felt that the change that the chair's bill makes to payments after the contract has been signed were difficult for some larger contractors. So you can see in after line 3, subsection B says, for a project valued at $5,000 or more, a person may not receive deposit of more than 1/2 or the remaining amount of the contract price until the home improvement specified is substantially complete, or the time period specified under a draw schedule that the parties mutually agree to at the time the contract is signed. So what the amendment does is it changes the standard to be substantial completion instead of completion, and that would be for all contracts. But then specifically for contracts for projects valued at $5,000 or more, there would be this option that the parties, when they enter into the contract, develop this draw schedule about how payments will need to be made going forward. You all got an email, I guess, this morning from the AG's office that they are not supportive of changing the bill in this manner. But
I'm not worried about the AG.
The chair wanted that to be offered up for discussion purposes based on some of the industry's concerns.
Madam Vice
Mr.
Chair.
Chairman?
I didn't.
Vice Chair.
oh, I'm sorry.
Mr.
Madam
Chairman?
Vice Chair.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. I actually like the chairman's amendment regarding the draw schedule. For what it's worth, I actually had some work done this summer and had 2 bathrooms remodeled. Now granted, it was a contract that I signed, but we signed a contract that was a third, a third, a third. And the contractor wouldn't have been able to do the work if I'd only paid half and didn't have to pay the rest until it was complete, because it was a lot of tile work. And of course, in my infinite wisdom, I picked tile that was more expensive than what was, the allowance that was in the contract. So to get it done, I gave him more in order to be able for him to purchase the tile. And it was substantially complete. I mean, there were a few, what are they called? Punch list items, but I had paid him, but he came back and he did it. So I sort of, maybe it's not perfect, but I like the idea that you can sign a contract that allows a different draw schedule.
And I personally agree with you 100%. Having some of these other projects done, I realize even half may not be enough to get it all the way to even substantial completion. So I personally like the amendment. I was going to hold off and see what everybody else thought, but that was my feelings exactly. Not trying to have leadership pressure people. So I'll wait and ask Madam Vice Chair her opinion later. No,
I'm sorry, sure. Not a problem. I'll be quiet.
Completely changed my position.
No, I agree with Madam Vice Chair. She's my district mate. No pressure there, no pressure, okay?
And I agree with the vice chair because she's my vice chair.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Yes, so I guess I have a sort of different opinion. Having been someone who's been doing some work too over the last years with contractors, especially dealing with them remotely while I'm in Annapolis, I think I'm in favor of, again, I'm accustomed to the one-third approach. So this idea of giving someone something as a half at time of signing of contract really bothers me. And I'll tell you why, because I'm dealing with someone right now who I signed this contract back in September, and they just started the work just before Christmas. And they're not finished, of course, because we got snow and some other stuff. That's a hell of a lot of money for a $20,000+ job that they just now started. And so I would have preferred, like you say, this 1/3 when you sign it, contract, and then when you start the work or whatever, what was the approach I'm assuming, and that's what Delegate Empolera talked about, when you get the materials in and they're here, we're not, first we were waiting on stuff to get here and that kind of stuff. I give you the next 1/3, and now I'm waiting for you to do that.
Does this contract preclude that? Now does the amendment actually preclude you from doing a third?
It doesn't, but I don't want to change that. That's my point. And right. I don't want to have to give you a half at contract signing.
Right, and I understand that, but what I want to make sure is this doesn't require you to, it allows them to say, well, I want half, and then if you don't want them, you can get a different person who said, okay, I'll take a third now. And then,
yeah, but I know we always go through that. You get another person, whatever, but finding who you want to do a job is not necessarily, that easy. I've gone to, this is like the third person I've already gone to right now. So it's not all of that, hey, I don't like you, so let me go to John Green.
So you'd rather leave the bill as it's, you'd rather.
I'm just saying, I like the idea of, I don't like going to a half at contract signing. I would like something that allows for the 1/3. And I do agree you need to do something at the end, because I didn't realize, I have worked with sort of Home Depot and those, but those are much smaller. To me, those are much smaller things when they talk about you having to do the whole thing up front. It's either with carpeting or like a storm door. It's usually less than $5,000 or more. But I'm talking about these $20,000+ jobs. I give somebody $10,000 and have to wait 6 months before they start.
So in discussing this specific amendment, you are against the amendment. as well as you sound like you're trying to amend the bill in a different manner, from what I understand, because the way the bill's originally written would not satisfy your interest, nor would the amendment. It sounds like it would pull it further from where you're trying to go.
Part of the amendment I like, the part of the amendment that changes it from 1/3 to a half is what I don't like.
Yeah,
So I would
The
like
bill
to,
also does that. So I want you to understand the bill also does that.
I know, I have a problem with the original, I have a problem with the original, both.
Right. So when in discussing the amendment, you don't support you don't support the bill as written, and you don't support the amendment because of.
I would support the amendment if it did not have the part about the 1/2, correct? Is that clear?
Yeah, I don't think it works that way. We'd have to we'd have to amend the original bill in addition to change the amendment.
Understood, but it is the committee's bill, correct?
Mhm. So go ahead, Seth.
So I get what Pam's saying, but one of the things that I don't like, and just speaking in general, kind of broader terms, is the substantial completion of work. I can't see somebody sending 2, 3, 4 guys coming back for a small punch list of putting on wall outlets or covers or whatever to when they've already collected all their money. I can't see. I mean, they will because they don't want negative reviews or whatever, but I can see that causing a lot of problems for consumers.
Okay, colleagues, how about this? Pam, did you drop off?
I think she.
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
No,
everybody
she's-
moved around. How about this? We don't have to put you to vote this bill out right now. I think Laura, is there a way we could draft it? Because we might be able to satisfy everybody's needs if we say 1/3 at sign, 1/3. Shit. Excuse me.
What about
1/3 at signing for the contract, 1/3 to start the contract, 1/3 to start the work, and the last third can be held until the completion, not substantial completion, but the completion of the job. That's something.
Yeah.
Behind?
Mr. Chairman, can I chime?
I knew you weren't going to, so hold on one second. I know I'm going to give you a chance, Chris. I just want to make sure. Do you guys understand what I'm asking?
Yeah.
yeah,
We would strike, obviously, the chairman's amendment. And what we would do is say a third, and a third. Third time, third on beginning of the work of beginning of the contract. And the final third would be on completion of the contract. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm under the impression that the amendment has some broad coalition support. And remember the rationale behind the bill, which I will assume for the sake of the conversation, the chairman agreed to when he brought the bill, which is that there is an element of we're trying to have contractors be successful in being able to complete a project. The bill.
So 2/3 wouldn't get it there?
No, what I'm saying is when you go to do a job, like let's say the vice chair's job with tile setting, on a $20,000 job, I'm saying that the cost of goods sold is going to exceed the 1/3. So if you're a small contractor subject to Maryland Improvement Commission and you're doing all the things you're supposed to be doing, I'm saying you're not even giving a contractor ability to cash flow, which, by the way, I had the handbook handy for the hearing, and they spend the first third of that entire handbook training contractors on how to manage cash flow. And I'm trying, and if you look at it through the lens of, what it takes for a contractor to be successful, this bill with a half down should help a contractor be more successful than otherwise. And in fact, the other part of this bill, which relates to the substantial completion, is something of a difficulty, but it's a trade-off because at the minimum, you're holding the contractor accountable for getting the work, done. So I think the amendment is well crafted and also is
Well, the substantial
yeah.
The substantial completion thing, I am not real comfortable with. Seth excuse these braces, guys. Seth said, I'm a little weary of that because, who's they're going to send all their people back out, they have all the money. And that was one of the big issues I did have. Okay, let me go with the hands up. Madam Vice Chair, I know you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just gonna say, to be honest, I'm not wedded to whether it's a third, and third or whatever, but I do like the caveat that allows there to be a different draw schedule. You know, if you are, for instance, building an addition, it may well be that, you know, you're doing the first part that might be the foundation and pouring the whatever, and you need X amount of money. You need X amount of money when you start putting the walls up, and then a whole different piece when you're doing the interior. So I think the caveat that parties can contract a draw schedule should be in the bill or should be in the law.
And
you know,
that was part of the amendment you're talking about, correct?
I'm sorry?
That was in the amendment that we're discussing.
Yes, that is correct.
Right.
That last
So-
couple things, that is the caveat that would allow the contractors, and it may be several contractors. You know, it might be you're having plumbing done on the remodel, you know, and so at the time the plumber is coming in, maybe there should be some sort of a draw, particularly if it's a big enough job that you've actually got a construction line, you know, or equity line that you're drawing from. And I think we have to allow parties to contract in a way that makes sense. You know, I mean, I understand the overall protection we're trying to say is that, you know, you not forcing someone to pay for everything up front, and whether it's 50% up front or a third. And, you know, I like substantially complete, but again, I'm not wedded to, you know, it is really just that caveat at the end that I think is really important.
And the issue of substantially complete is really tough because total complete with only 50% of the money seems very difficult.
I agree.
It's like I'm trying to thread that needle. You know, you only give half the money, but you want everything done before you get the second half. And that might not even cover, I don't know. I think that's a tough one too. This is I definitely want to do something, guys. I don't know if I want to go, I mean, okay, I'm sorry, Lily.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we can walk a balance. If we're going to stick with, and if it seems like some of my colleagues, including myself, think it's reasonable to have a more defined term of completion so that it's to the satisfaction of the consumer, right? Because substantial is hard to define sometimes. But if we're going to do that in terms of regulating businesses, then we should probably allow them to draw at least half or up to half of whatever they need to do the job. So I think that is a give and take that I can live with, you know.
Okay. Seth?
Yeah, the
Is your
50%. Yeah. The 50% I can live with. I mean, because of cost of materials, I mean, we know those have all gone up. I get it. But the consumer protection portion of it, so maybe if we did 50 and 25 and 25, something, whatever the will of the subcommittee and the committee is, because at the end, and I understand what Madam Vice Chair, I understand the draw schedule, but the fact that, to me, the fact of the matter is that the multi-billion-dollar international corporation that is Lowe's and Home Depot or whatever, there's not going to be any negotiating that draw schedule, period. You're going to do it their way, or it's going to be the highway. So I don't know. To me, the substantial completion, I'm with you, CT, that's a problem. But to me, I understand the cost of materials, so 50%, maybe 25 and 25 for jobs 6,000 and below or 5,000 and below, and maybe there's some other percentage. You know, I don't want to convolute the bill anymore. And we've talked about it a lot, but something needs to be done. So maybe it's 50% for jobs 6,000 and below, and 33% for 6,000 and above. I don't know. So that's just my thoughts and my feelings. Because I think Pam's right. You know, I think it is a lot to come out of pocket up front for the consumer. So
yeah, this is a difficult one. Of course, I'm getting texts about, all of the advocates, what their feelings are, but we're stuck in this room together for a reason, and so Mark, you're strangely quiet right now. Are you having a stroke? I want to make sure you're all right. You have any
I'm not stroking out. This is it's an interesting conversation, right? Because I am notwithstanding what I do in my real job, we do of course, at the end of the day, after all the regulatory stuff, build the cell sites. And, but it's all contracted out, right? And so if someone came to me, and sorry, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but
Go ahead.
if someone came to me and said, I need 50% before I can start any kind of excavation at the site, I would think to myself, well, or I need 50% before I ship the steel to you. I would say, well, that's what credit is for, right? You've got the subcontractors have credit with their suppliers. So they're really not, at least a good one, isn't putting out any money because they have, so, but, and I'm also very sympathetic to what Delegate Queen said, because I've been there too. I remember when my wife first got married, we built a house and we had a similar situation where the builder convinced us, and we were really dumb and young, to close on the house and to let the bank release all of the money because it was and then only to find out that he came back for the punch list. And I'm like, what an idiot I am for trusting him, right? So there's that too, right? I've had both experiences.
Well, I honestly, Mark, I don't. Your first part of the conversation did not disagree with what Pam was saying. That basically, if you have a guy coming up and he wants half, your question should be, well, you should be able to afford a third. We will call it good faith money, because if you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, meaning if you don't have the credit to get started, then maybe you're not a viable business anyway. I know that's different from what Chris is saying, but it sounds like for the first time probably in history that you and Delegate Queen are on the exact same sheet of music, because the first part and the second part is exactly what she's talking about. And Chris, what would your answer? And I know we're not going to drag this on, to bring this back, but what would your response be to that? Because that then takes us back to why not do a third, and a third?
Okay, so my answer is that no matter what we do here today, stop a unreputable or a poorly conceived business owner making bad business decisions and or trying to defraud a customer. Understand what this bill does. Number one, recognizes that most contractors understand what the MHIC is, understands the rules of the road, went through the test like I did, understands the importance of, and it is a more than anything else, it is a pro-business bill, but I'm couching this bill as pro-consumer because for a reputable contractor to do their job, they have to engage in commerce in a
50
cash flow situation.
front.
Forget the concepts about
Half and half.
by
Delegate Turner?
because
I don't agree with that.
Delegate Turner, could you
Yes.
could you mute yourself right quick?
Huh?
Could you mute yourself? It sounds like you're having another conversation.
Got you. Got you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Seth. Sorry. Chris.
They look alike.
I think I answered the question. I'm saying
No,
that this
you did.
bill is not going to stop a bad business owner. And frankly, theoretically, just from a policy standpoint, a political standpoint, how often do we try to pass bills that mandate good business practice? It's very hard to do that. I think this bill tries to let good business owners that are playing by the rules of the MHIC actually conduct commerce. And again, if I wish I had the book in front of me, where we get trained on how to pass the MHIC test, all the rules that you're supposed to talk about. And they spend the first third of this book talking about basic elements of accounting and cash flow and business operations, the reason why they do that is because it's the most important part about getting a job done correctly. And
the reason this bill is even up for discussion is from what Derek went through, what Pam has gone through, what I've gone through, and what Mark's gone through. And you're right, there's no way, you can't regulate morality, but you know what you can do is punish those bastards when you catch them. And I know that to me, this is one more little, thing to get on them when you finally catch that guy. I've got a half-finished gazebo. It's been that way probably 5 years at this point, because that bastard came out, he took all my money, and he did not finish my gazebo. I'm like, Pam, I can't even find another good person to come and repair this guy's crap.
Mr. Chairman, the MHIC stands ready and willing to receive your complaint, notwithstanding this bill. And for the situation where somebody received a deposit, whether it was a third or whether it's a half and didn't start the job, 90 days later, the MHIC is ready and willing to receive that complaint. I'd be willing to bet you that the MHIC would call that contractor and say, whether this bill passes or not, hey, look, you have an obligation as a registered licensed contractor to perform the work. You got paid. That's part of the job of the MHIC.
Well, guys, it's a tough one here. I guess is the crappy part about being a chair. I'm trying to figure out what to do with the chair's amendment and the chair's bill, which is also wink, wink, nudge, nudge, a big important part of it, because I know he's been negotiating with as many players and as many advocates as possible, which is where the amendments came in at. And before we kill his bill, Delegate, or kill his amendment, Delegate Adams, well, no, you actually like the amendment, Delegate Fisher, I would hold the bill and hold the amendment. But I want you guys all to think, I don't want to leave that. We're going to bring a solution out with this bill. Okay. And we're going to get this done. We can put it off a little while because we're not in that much of a rush. We're going to get bombarded. You guys have been in the hearings. Business regs is going to get absolutely crushed, later on. So we can't let this go too much longer. We're trying to have standing meetings every Thursday. We might have to double up and have another meeting on a Monday or Tuesday because we're going to get crushed. But I know this is an important bill. Chris, I agree with you. There's only so much we can do. And at the end of the day, the impact this bill makes, or the fact that once we pass this bill, are they going to stop asking for everything up front? We don't know that. But I know we have to make good policy. Madam Vice Chair.
This is a technical question actually for Laura, or all of you, but I'm looking at the bill and it says a person may not receive a deposit of more than 1/2. I think that means you could get a deposit of less.
Yes.
If by contract, so
Yes.
I mean, if the parties agree, we're going to take 1/3, we're going to take 1/3.
And that's what I pointed out originally is.
I'm sorry, I missed it. Okay.
No. And Pam, her response was, yeah, but, the way the law is written, it doesn't mandate that you have to give half.
Mhm.
It only asks for up to half. So by the way it's written as far as the amendments, a third and a third can still be negotiated. You can you say, I know I can only ask for half, but I'm only going to give you a third, and then I'll give you a third once you start working. You can divide the amendment. It actually fulfills Delegate Queen's, role if she so chooses to stick with her guns. I get her point about not everybody's going to know to do that, but as Chris said, not everybody's going to know this law anyway. People that don't know to do that might not know this law. I'm just saying, those same people may not know this law. You look like you have something to say, Delegate Queen, in your hands up.
Yeah, a couple things I wanted to say. Well, I don't want to belabor this. One, just because someone, signs a contract and takes more than 90 days or whatever, Delegate Adams says that I could have reported them. A lot of people don't know that. I didn't know that I could have reported this person that took all this time. And so if I don't know that, the average person doesn't know that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're, I would say that doesn't necessarily mean they were a terrible person. What I think happened was, it was a roofing job and it was a lot of other work getting done around that time at insurance companies that they knew they won't get payment for. They went and did those customers and came back to me. I think that's what it was, but I don't, so I don't think they're a bad person for that necessarily. Problem is when you go through this process of trying to find a contractor, if you're doing your due diligence, you've gone through things like what are their reputation, whose jobs they've done before. And so to come back and tell me because they don't negotiate this terms with me, I can go find another one. That's a lot of work I've done to decide I want that person. And so, and as Delegate Howard said, especially the big players are going to say, hey, this says 50%. I'm not going to negotiate with you on 50%. They're going to go do that. They're not going to say, okay, you can give me a third now because the law says 50%. I think the one third approach and I think that's a good compromise. I'm taking a little bit of the chairman's bill, and if you are really serious about doing it, you got a third when the contract started, and you get another third before you start to nail something into the walls. You've got a chance to pay for the materials. So
Okay.
I don't think that's a problem.
All right,
I think
well,
it incentivizes you to try to get that stuff done fast. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying, it sounds like we definitely have two competing thoughts here. Not sure how we're going to come to the middle on this. At some point, we're just going to have to call this to a vote. So Laura, are you comfortable with doing this next week, or do you want to get this off the plate today, hon?
No, I mean, I think there's been some good discussion. It would probably be productive if the members could take a closer look, and then if you have any amendments, maybe have them to us for
Delegate
next
Queen,
week.
If
And
you have
then
any
maybe
amendments-
next week. we
Yeah,
could
I will
try
do
to-
a new amendment. I will do a new amendment. 'cause that's-
Okay, and so we can introduce, anybody else has, Chris, I know you're happy with the chair's amendment. Seth, if you want to have any input, since I know you had strong feelings on this, if you just want to jump in with Delegate Queen. But I think we're going to lock this down next week, okay, guys? And not, I guess, maybe not everybody's gonna be happy, but this was for discussion today.
Okay.
Can we, do we just want to vote Mr. Adams' bill down totally today, or do we want to just?
Yeah,
go ahead
just
with-
wait.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
just-
I think.
I know, I'm just messing with them. So, okay,
Just
guys.
me, man. That's just.
CT, I don't take any of this stuff personal, man. Do what
I
you
know,
gotta do.
man. So,
right.
all right, so this is a good meeting. This is all we have for today, right, Laura?
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and call it quits, guys. I'll see everybody in a few minutes. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
for your thoughtful responses.
Thank you.
See you guys in a few.
Yes, sir.